Signed by God, my life is signed by God. To my every prayer, He gives a nod. My life today is signed by God. Signed by God, my life is signed by God. To my every prayer, He gives a nod. My life today is signed by God. Signed by God, my life is signed by God. To my every prayer, He gives a nod. My life today is signed by God. Signed by God, my life is signed by God. To my every prayer, He gives a nod. My life today is signed by God.
Good morning, Temple of Light family. Good morning to everyone here this morning in our beautiful sanctuary, as well as to those who are joining us on the World Wide Web. It is a pleasure to have you here with us. It's a pleasure to have you celebrate this beautiful morning. You know, those of you who are not here should just see the bougainvillea in all its glory surrounding this beautiful property. We truly, truly are blessed. So let us together just acknowledge the source of all this beauty, the source of life, the source of us being here, and that source is God, that living Spirit Almighty, that one in which we live and move and have our perfect being. We acknowledge God, and we acknowledge our oneness with God, to know that we are made in its image and likeness, with eyes to see the beauty all around, with ears to understand the words of truth, and with lips and voices that spread these words, so that we too can touch, move, and inspire all others with whom we come into contact. And so I speak a special word this morning for Sunday morning service, for this wonderful celebration of truth, so beautifully and perfectly expressed as this service, as the songs sung, as the words spoken, and as the hearts that are wide open in consciousness to hear and to understand the truth as it is spoken. And so I just know that God is present in this place. God is present as each person who is joining us. God is present as the words, as the music, as everything that takes place here this morning. And God is present as our very lives. And so we celebrate this life. And in this spirit of celebration, I release these words and just know that they're joyfully and wonderfully and perfectly fulfilled as our divine experience right here and right now. I truly give thanks that all of this is so now, and so it joyfully is. Okay. It truly is a beautiful, beautiful day. And I would like to invite Viviana Young to come and share with us, one of our wonderful young people, to do our inspirational reading.
Divinely guided by Reverend Kathy Beasley. Guidance is one of those things we can all use at some point in our journeys. The question is whether we choose to use it or proceed without it. Here is the thing about guidance and listening. They don't just move us through our experiences. Both guidance and listening help us to create our experiences of the world itself. We can choose to lean into the love enough to hear the voices, prayers, stories, or lyrics of the world. It changes us for the better and for the good. So much so that we become the living guidance that takes roots into the sacredness of the listening world. Guidance only matters if we are willing to trust it and go where it takes us. Know this, love is always listening for us. Be willing to listen with your whole being and know that you are always divinely guided in every moment.
Thank you, Viviana. And she now lights the candle for you. Yes.
And now we have the blessing for the children.
We love you.
We
We appreciate you. We salute the Christ in you. We see you as shining lights unto your world. God is blessing you now, and so it is.
And now we'll have the Told Mission song.
The temple of light, the temple of light, the temple of light. We are a people with a vision, one with spirit on a mission. To touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, to love and liberate. Anyone who comes into contact with us, anytime, light will be. The temple of light, the temple of light, the temple of light. We are a people with a vision, one with spirit on a mission. To touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, to love and liberate. Anyone who comes into contact with us, anytime, light on you. Thank you, Viviana. And now we're going to have our praise song. And we salute Maestro Bob Marley. And we truly give thanks for this blessing. Can we ask you to stand?
Don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Sing it, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile at the rising sun. Pretty little birds fish by my doorstep, singing sweet songs of melodies pure and true, saying, this is my message to you. Singing, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. I said, don't worry about a thing, 'cause every little thing is gonna be alright. Rise up this morning, smile at the rising sun. Pretty little birds pitch by my doorstep,
gonna be all right. Please remain standing for the prayer of our center. And that's on the flyer in your program. Wow, when we have a nice little reggae vibe going there. So let us just know that the Temple of Light, Center for Spiritual Living, is a sacred field embodying our spiritual community, from which the Christ, peace, love, and joy emanate, to touch, to heal, to bless, to prosper, and to liberate anyone who comes into contact with it in any way. The light of the Christ illumines us, our center, and our environment. Our spiritual community is filled with and surrounded by the presence of God and is growing from strength to strength. The power of God expands our consciousness of truth, guiding us ceaselessly along the paths of wisdom, spiritual growth, unfoldment, and attainment. We are blessed, and to God be the honor and the glory forever. And so it is. Thank you, friends. You may be seated. And now we'll have our announcements. We say a very special welcome to anyone who is joining us for the first time. Anyone here in the sanctuary who is here with us for the first time, we invite you to stand. I'm not seeing any new timers. Well, we welcome you anyway to our hearts and to our consciousness. And of course, even although you've been coming, just keep coming. Okay, let us give ourselves a round of applause. So we continue to live stream every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and on Tuesdays at 6. The recording is also available on YouTube. Now, this morning we have Discovery, so we invite you to join Reverends John Scott and Michael Record in the sanctuary and on Facebook Live for Discovery at 10:30 this morning. The topic today will be about our status as members of the royal household of God. Now, quiet moments in the garden continue every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 6 a.m. EST. And so we ask you to join Reverend John for a refreshing and insightful early morning start to your day. Now, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. we have our spiritual mind healing service, spiritual enrichment service. They both are uplifting, enriching, and mind healing. And so that's at 6 o'clock on a Tuesday on Facebook, as well as on Zoom. This week our presenter is practitioner Carol Campbell, and the link is usually sent out from our mailing list. Now, if you want to have an hour of communion every Thursday evening, join us for prayer power at 6 p.m. It comes to you live via Zoom. The link is sent out usually on a Thursday morning from our mailing list. Now, our classes continue on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. on Zoom with Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, facilitated by Reverend Michael Record. And on Thursdays at 11, we ask you to join Reverend John for a face-to-face class titled Spiritual Principles and Practices. On Thursday evenings, we have Reverend Ann Shan and Reverend Dr. Sonia Davidson, and they together lead a Zoom class titled Leave Your Nets. Now, contribution for classes is $1,200 Jamaican dollars or US $10 for registered members, and $1,600 Jamaican or US $1,200 for others. And please, we do invite you to join us this Thursday at 6 p.m. for Lifeline. This is our monthly webinar where we bring in a host of luminaries, Science of Mind luminaries And this week we have Reverend Dr. Andriette Earl, who is a featured writer in the Science of Mind magazine, and she is the pastor at the Oakland Church of Center for Spiritual Living in California. And her topic this week is Science of Mind and Spirit as a Spiritual Path for Women. Of course, everyone is welcome. We send out the Zoom link, and you can join us also on Facebook Live. That's at 6 p.m. this Thursday. So don't miss it. It's our regular fun interview. You can ask questions. You can just engage in a wonderful, fulfilling, and robust conversation with our guest. This week, Reverend Dr. Andriette Earl. Now, we continue to respond to all of your requests for prayer. A practitioner is available to pray with you immediately following our service this morning and every Sunday. On duty this Sunday is practitioner Steve Golding, and the number to call is 876-289-0907. And if you would like to speak with a minister, you can also call 876-289-0907. And this is from Monday to Friday, from 8 a.m. to 12 midnight. Now, if you feel moved to contribute to our ministry, we invite you to visit our donate page at donate.templeoflightcsl.org. And that has all of our banking details. We thank you for your love and for your generosity and for helping us to be a beacon of light in the world. This concludes our announcements, and we ask you now to stand and join us as we sing our first hymn, Dear Lord and Father of Mankind. The words are in your program and are also on the screen for those of you joining us online. Please be seated. The beauty of thy peace. And when I think of peace, I think of our speaker, one of those quiet luminaries who has totally embodied and embraced the science of mind as a philosophy. And he expresses it so eloquently. Friends, I ask you to put your hands together and welcome to the podium practitioner, Vance Gardiner.
Good morning, Temple family. And thanks, Sandy, for that wonderful welcome. I'll do my best to embody what you have said. If we are one big happy family, no one would have to beg to eat. If we lived in a world of dignity, no man would have to live on the street. If I tell you you're a part of me, there's no need for disbelief. Here is my hand to let you know that what we dream, we all can hold. Apart, we are weak. Together, we are strong. Oh, people, we are writing this song. We are living these words together forever. There's no reason we can't live and be one. Build the world that we want together. For as long as you stand here by me, we'll live on. Good morning, friends, again. As I was listening to Patti LaBelle's fantastic voice singing, I wondered how many people really listen to the lyrics of music, the words of sage and prophets. Do we really listen to each other? And do we really, importantly, listen to ourselves? Paul Tillich, a Christian existentialist philosopher, and who is widely regarded as one of the most influential theologians of the 20th century, said, "The first duty of love is to listen." But do we really listen, or do we just hear? To really listen, we have to practice active listening. Active listening is different from normal listening we do in everyday conversations. Instead of just waiting to talk or thinking about what we are going to say, once our conversation partner stops speaking, active listening requires that the listener completely focus on absorbing, comprehending, and reflecting what the speaker is saying. Active listening is to feel empathy, which is easy to say, but challenging to practice. When you are active listening, be mindful to think about how you would feel if you were in the other person's shoes. Ask yourself, what would I be feeling, doing, sensing if I were them? By making the effort to empathize, your response to the other person will naturally give off the compassion and the need to feel better. However, don't sympathize. Sympathy instead involves feeling sorry for the other person and ourselves in similar circumstances. Sympathizing involves becoming a wound mate. That is, enter into the emotional state of the speaker. When somebody is telling you their sad story, you respond with one of your own, and then both of you relive the negative experiences together, which will help neither. Be compassionate but unattached, to be a healing presence, like the master teacher showed with the raising of Lazarus. Briefly, for anyone who doesn't know or remember the story from the Gospel of John, chapter 11, verses 1 to 44, briefly, the master teacher was told that his friend Lazarus was very ill and needed him. Yeshua, aka Jesus of Nazareth, eventually went to his friend home. Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha, told him that he was 4 days late and Lazarus had died. Jesus wept. He then recognized that this was his moment to be a revealer of the truth that life is eternal. And by the practice of faith and true understanding, he could speak his word into being. He didn't allow his consciousness to be lowered, as we Jamaicans tend to say, to be dragged down, by listening to the mourners who told him he was too late and that Lazarus is dead and nothing could be done. We all know the end of the story. Jesus went and told them to remove the tomb and said, Lazarus, come forth. And that was his great demonstration to raise Lazarus from the seemingly dead. Earlier this year, I became a listener on 7 Cups, an online therapy provider. It allows for persons to connect and chat by text with listeners for all kinds of reasons, from the big existential thoughts to the small day-to-day things that we all experience. 7 Cups listeners don't judge or try to solve problems or tell people what to do. We just listen. We understand and give the space you need to clear your head and become aware of your thoughts and feelings. Like Sands of Mind practitioners, listening involves paraphrasing for clarity and understanding, uplifting questions to aid empowerment and greater self-awareness, and the full attention to observe what is unfolding. I'm not allowed to offer prayer support, but the members can request that in the chat. It is in my profile that I'm a Sands of Mind practitioner. I have learned and truly believe that most of the issues we face in the world and in our personal lives can be resolved if we practice to actively listen to each other and listen to ourselves. As Marvin Gaye sings, we got to find a way to bring some understanding here today. So as the song says, what's going on? Because war is not the answer. The awakening of our faculty of understanding starts with questioning. Questioning the old ways of thinking that we may have taken for granted. Spiritual understanding is the quickening of the spirit within, our awakening to our spiritual magnificence by listening to and trusting divine guidance, as our inspirational reading told us this morning. Spiritual understanding is raising our consciousness through spiritual practices that develop ears that hear. In Matthew 13, verses 3 to 9, Jesus said, a sower went forth to sow his seeds. And as he sowed them, some fell along the hard pathway where many people had walked and packed down the soil. Since the seed could not take root, they were exposed on the top of the soil, and the birds would come along and eat them up. Some fell on rocky ground. The topsoil was loose enough for the seed to take root, but they had no depth. Then some of the seeds fell among thorns. As they tried to grow, they were choked out by the thorns. Finally, some seeds fell on good ground and produced some 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. He concluded by saying, whoever has ears, let them hear. I am saying the same thing this morning. Now, Reverend Laura Fleming of the Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center explains that the soil represents our consciousness. We may have a little of each type. It may also be that we have overcome some of each type. Jesus was teaching that our conscious mind, the one we use every day, is superimposed over a deeper divine mind. We have both. We use it all the time, even when we are not aware of it, many times unconsciously. If we can recognize divine mind, we can allow divine ideas, like the seeds in the parable, to begin to grow in our consciousness. When we close our minds and hearts to the truth that we have the Spirit of God within us, we have ears that do not hear. Then the parable has no meaning for us. But when we are open to the truth, we get past the rules and the dogma, those man-made rules. We have come to internalize. And when we get past that, we can enter into the inner kingdom of heaven, that realm of higher consciousness and oneness. It is important that we take our spirituality, our divine nature, into our everyday experience, represented by the seeds. When we step into the world, we take with us a multitude of internalized thoughts, attitudes, and old beliefs and values. But we can choose to see the spiritual in every material experience. That rocky ground may be our lack of commitment to our own spiritual development that robs us of our true potential. Even our best intentions, represented by those seeds, can be choked out by our lack of understanding or ability to have ears that hear. All seeds grown in higher consciousness produce good fruit of joy, prosperity, peace, love, and abundance, 100-fold or more. We create a world that is centered in spiritual consciousness in the realm of God within when we pray and when we meditate. And if we are one with our Christ nature, we already know that this is true. Oh, because then we have ears that hear. The key to the understanding of this parable is this: there is a divine mind, universal and unconditional. It is our connection to spirit where we access divine ideas. And then there's a conscious phase of mind, which is individual, personal, and localized, as one of my practitioner friends always tend to remind me. We all have it. This is our unique and individual mind. Together, divine mind and our mind are one in all and all in one. Spirit is our eternal identity. As individuals, we all have relationships with spirit. The 4 types of conditions of soil and the rock represent 4 types of human response and understanding to spirit within. When we hear the word of the kingdom and do not understand it, it cannot take root and grow in our hearts. And that is like the seed that is sown on the path. This may be like when I first started to come to this Temple of Light Center for Spiritual Living, and I got the urge to tithe. But based upon what I've been taught and experiences the challenges of meeting bills and financial obligations of the time, I did not understand it. And the burdens of meeting day-to-day expenses took it away. However, after doing 40 prosperity course with Reverend John, it raised my consciousness. And through demonstration, I've come to realize that spirit is my all-sufficiency. And that the more we give, the more we receive. Then there are times when we hear the word and immediately receive it with joy. Yet our relationship with God within wasn't very deep. And when trouble arose, that relationship suffered because it was sown on rocky ground. This is like when we get a divine idea, and it is reinforced by an encouragement from a minister or practitioner at one of our services. You get excited about it, but then you are challenged by circumstances and even others, and you lose interest and revert to the old ways of thinking and doing things which have become rocks in your awareness. Then we hear the word, but the cares of the world, the lure of wealth, and lack of control over our eager tendencies and impulses are like the weeds which choke them out. We may even yield to the temptation to use our understanding for mesmeric purposes to further our own personal ambitions. And we can point out the examples, the well-known examples, but more challenging is to recognize the times we too have failed to control our own egos and have edged God out of our awareness. But when we hear the word with a consciousness of oneness and spiritual understanding, it's like the seed sown on good soil, and it bears fruit 100-fold. Because we are truly living in the kingdom of heaven, where we experience heaven on earth. In this day and age, we have our thoughts and feelings challenged every day. We are bombarded by the radio, television, books, and newspaper with all types and kinds of ideas. Most of them are negative. The Apostle Paul gave us some good advice for developing this consciousness when he said, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think from the consciousness of having these things. That is my elaboration on what Paul actually said. It would be greater and more advantageous if the newspaper would write about and tell about the many good things that go on. There are things being done in this world that most people know little or nothing about. And for Lent, we could try to follow Emmett Fox's suggestion of trying to go at least 7 days without thinking negatives. But more importantly, the Master asks us to spend time in the silence, to listen with ears that hear to our divine guidance. Now, silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is referring to an absence of ego concerns, an absence of world thought. That's the silence. And you can do that while you are walking or driving or eating or whatever. This is what we must learn: an absence of ego concerns, an absence of a material sense of self. An absence of that world thoughts about the world. When you have that absence of ego concern, you will have attained the silence. And into that silence, into that inner receptivity that you have created by an absence of the liquor self, into that silence will flow a conscious awareness of God, and it will show you a new heaven and a new earth. You don't even have to ask for it. Joel Goldsmith in Leave Your Nets. That's a class that we do on Thursday evenings from 7 to 9 with Reverend Ann and Reverend Sonia. It's a class well worth attending. Joel Goldsmith tells us, as we come into the realization of the true nature of our being and the true nature of God's being as individual being, in that proportion, we have risen above the circumstances and conditions of human existence. Excuse me. At first, this may leave us floating through space and wondering where we are going to land. Before we discover what this power of the invisible is that acts upon our lives and transform our consciousness. Excuse me. And transforms our consciousness. The power of the invisible is that it acts upon our lives and transforms our consciousness. My addendum, my addendum to the saying, it transforms our lives to where right action is our only choice, and to be the peace that passeth all human understanding. So, at this time, I'm inviting you now to put away all concerns, to relax and center yourselves.
In the silence, there is peace. In the silence, there is unspoken joy. In the silence, there's release from a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for broken joy in the silence. There's release from a world full of chaos and noise. So I wait for each precious moment when I hear all that could never be said, and right here in this holy silence I find God. I find God. I find myself.
It's refreshing in the silence. Those online would see on your screen a tweet from Stephen Bartlett which says, you can read as many books as you like, but if you are unable to read yourself, you will never learn a thing. Those of us who are unfamiliar with British influencers and celebrities may not have heard about Stephen Bartlett. He has written a best-selling book, Happy, Sexy Millionaire, among many other accomplishments. But here is what he wrote that inspired that tweet. As an 18-year-old, black, broke, lonely, insecure university dropout from a bankrupt family, I wrote in my diary that I wanted to be a happy, sexy millionaire by the age of 25. By the age of 25, I was a multimillionaire, having created a business worth over $300 million. US dollars we're talking about. Ironically, in achieving everything I set out to, I learned that I was wrong about almost everything. The world had lied to me. It lied to me about how to attain fulfillment, love, and success, and why those things mattered, and what those words actually mean. We are losing ourselves. We are chasing the wrong things, asking the wrong questions, and polluting our minds. It's time to stop. It's time to resist, and it's time to rethink the fundamental social blueprint that our lives are built upon. For those of you who don't know, he is one of the presenters on a popular BBC program called The Dragon's Den. He's the only black member of the Dragon's Den, and he's the youngest member of the Dragon's Den because he's not yet 30 years old. He said his purpose is to help young people from less privileged backgrounds like his, especially minorities who don't always see themselves reflected in certain programs or industries, to feel enabled. And he wants to provide the resources and the tools, like learning how to use social media effectively to monetize their invention. As he wrote to complete the quote, if you never apply the wisdom you have learned, you will never grow. So friends, it is as David Archuleta sings. It's like a symphony. Just keep listening. And pretty soon you'll start to figure out your part. Everyone has a piece, and there are melodies in each of us. And soon you will know how to let it ring out as you discover who you truly are. Others around you will start to wake up to the sounds that are in their hearts. Friends, it is so amazing what we are all creating. It is truly glorious. Namaste.
Awesome. I mean, the first duty of love is to listen. How much do we use this wonderful gift? And Vance invited us to practice active listening, to empathize, to be compassionate, but not sympathetic. To be empathetic, to be a healing presence to others. We need to develop the practice of paraphrasing, to be able to ask strong, powerful questions for clarity, to allow the other person to express and to hear and to understand them. And my words, when somebody gets that you get them, it makes a world of difference to the quality of the relationship. He says part of our awakening is spiritual understanding, to raise our consciousness with ears that hear, to let our divine mind always be open to the truth, to get past the noise of the world, to get past judgment, to know that spirit is our eternal destiny. He shared the wonderful parable of the sower and the seeds and looked at the different levels of consciousness. And maybe the question is, what level can you identify in terms of how you hear, understand, and express the truth? So we have work to do, and we need to do that work, oftentimes in the silence, for us to find a quiet time to allow the voice of spirit to speak and express through us. Because with the ears of an open consciousness, we shall truly hear. Thank you again, Vance. Let us just give him another round of applause. And now I invite you to stand for the prayer of Jamaica. And it's on the flyer in your program. Together. The radiant light of God's love is now flowing through us and from us to everything and everyone it touches. The eternal light of God's love now completely fills, covers, and surrounds our island, Jamaica. The glowing intensity of the light of God's love now interpenetrates and awakens within the hearts and minds of our countrymen and women the truths of life which set free. The light of God's love is growing and glowing in intensity in the hearts and minds of mankind everywhere. Love, health, harmony, goodwill, peace, uprightness, integrity, joy, prosperity, kindness, and our oneness under God are now established. And so it is. And I invite you to remain standing for us to do our second hymn. This is my song, and that's on page 3 of your program. And it's online for those of you who are joining us. Beautiful song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for hands and one and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here is my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But all the hearts in all the lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and the sunlight beams on clover leaves and lime. But all the lands have sunlight too and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine. May truth and freedom come to every nation. May peace abound where strife has raged so long, that each may seek to love and build together a world united, righting every wrong. A world united in its love for freedom, proclaiming peace together in one song.
Oh, what a wonderful hymn. Just declaring the oneness that we have one for the other, country for country. Vance.
Yeah. A world united, righting every wrong. A world united in its love for freedom, proclaiming peace together in one song. That is what we are doing at this Temple of Light, Center for Spiritual Living. And in that consciousness, I ask you to take your loving gifts into your hands. As we say the love offering blessing, it's on the envelopes or on the screen for those watching online. Lovingly I give, joyfully I receive. Be thou fruitful, increase, and multiply. Bless, prosper, and enrich everyone whom you touch,
And replenish
replenish
all.
all of my financial affairs. So be it. Thank you, Father. And so it is. Did a prayer of Jamaica? You did a prayer of Jamaica? You did the prayer of Jamaica? Okay. I remember I was just slipping there a little while ago. That's why we did the prayer of Jamaica. But I remember we did it. So, please just join me in this closing affirmative prayer. As we give thanks for everyone who has allowed themselves to be a giver this morning, a giver of treasure, a giver of time, a giver of talent. And we give thanks for everyone who has opened their hearts and their consciousness to the words of truth that have been spoken this morning. So as we recognize the one power, the one presence, expressing as each and every one of us this morning, there is light in the hills and the higher reaches of our consciousness. Our hearts are filled with love, and there is peace in the valley. There is peace on earth, and it begins with all of us awakening to our spiritual magnificence and manifesting a world that truly works for all. This is our song. This is our prayer. And I give thanks that all this is so. And so it is. So I'm going to ask you to join me in our peace song. Yes, there is peace. To join Reverend John in his garden, or join him online tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. for quiet moments in the garden. And on Tuesday at 6 p.m. you can join practitioner Carol Campbell for a spiritual mind healing service. And then on Thursday at 5 p.m., you can join Reverend Sonia and the prayer posse for prayer power. And that's on Zoom. And then on Facebook Live at 6 p.m., please don't miss Reverend Dr. Andret Earl, a very If you have read her works in the Sands of Nine magazine, you would know the consciousness that she will bring to this experience. And then on Sunday morning, you can join Reverend John right here. But you don't have to wait until Sunday morning. You can join him right after at 10:30 along with Reverend Michael for Discovery this morning. I didn't speak to Reverend John or Reverend Michael about my topic, but it's just Spirit has a way of just synchronizing everything. So if you grasp what I was saying this morning, then you would recognize your place in the royal household. So join for Discovery this morning, and Reverend John next week, Sunday morning, in the sanctuary and online.